This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good night, Jennifer Whitacre. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I'm doing wonderful tonight. How are you tonight, Angel?
I am excellent. It's a great pleasure to connect with you.
Yes, it is. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, yes. And tell me, what part of the world are you in right now?
I am in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States.
All right. And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
I also have a podcast, and you and I met on Facebook on a podcasters themed page.
Right. Well, tell me about your podcast, please.
My podcast is titled Yes and I got the title from two places. The first place I personally heard the title was from self-help or self-improvement circles, because yes and is a technique that anybody can start to use in conversation immediately to take defensiveness out of a conversation. I think we've all been in situations where we're talking to somebody and we say something that's really meaningful and really important to us, and the other person that we're talking to butts in with a, well, yes, but. And the yes, but immediately discredits and invalidates what I've just said, and it implies that what the other person is about to say is more important.
I love it.
And if you just switch one word, just drop your but and replace it with and, you're not invalidating what the other person said, but you're adding value to it, and you're adding another perspective to it. So it takes the need to win a conversation and the defensiveness out of conversations, and it's more relaxing, and there's actually a felt sense to it if you practice it. The other place it comes from is improv, which same concept, you add value.
How long did it take you before you got this wisdom, if you would?
Oh, goodness. I learned of yes and probably 7 or 8 years ago for the first time. And I'm 46 right now. So I was in my late 30s before I discovered yes and.
And has life been better now that you're using yes and instead of yes but?
It is. It really is. When I catch myself in conversation, when I stop myself from saying but, when it's a situation when I'm going to discredit the other person, it really does bring down defensiveness and argumentativeness in conversations.
So who did you learn that from in terms of the value of understanding that having a conversation where others are built up is important? Who did you learn that from?
Oh, gosh, I don't know if I can credit only one person for that. Probably one of the biggest influences on me when it comes to conversation was reading a book by the name of Just Listen, and the author of that book is Mark Goulston. And he didn't talk about the yes and technique per se. I've heard that in so many places in my life. I honestly can't remember the first time I heard it or from whom. But when it comes to conversations, Mark Goulston's book really had a massive impact on me, and that has stuck with me. I have that on audiobook through my Audible account, and I have listened to that book at least 4 times, and I've had it in the back of my mind. I need to play that again this year and listen to it again.
That's great. And now that you've been on the two sides of the experience, why will you continue to be that person that, just listens, if you would, and definitely adds in conversation by saying yes and instead of yes but?
Why will I continue? Because it makes conversations so much more pleasant. When I'm in conversation and I'm not feeling even that subtle level of defensiveness, then it opens up my curiosity. It makes me more able to understand what the other person is saying rather than trying to formulate my response. And it just brings a sense of calm and peace to conversations that sometimes aren't there.
Love it. Well, do tell me, my friend, one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
Oh gosh, learn. I have really paid attention to what I'm learning and what my brain is consuming. So over the last, it's been more than 3 years at this point, but for the last probably 5 or 6 years, I very rarely watch television, and that has had a huge impact on me and my mindset, just not having the television and the commercials, and because there's a lot of propaganda thrown into TV programming. So that's been huge. I have been very conscientious of what I'm putting in my brain and what I'm consuming. So I have really shifted, and daily I consume for my mind some sort of motivation or inspiration or something that keeps me forward looking and in a growth mindset. So I'll watch a TED Talk. I will look for somebody that I follow that is kind of like this is one thing I do love about the internet is I have all of these, I'm using air quotes, even though you can't see me, mentors out there that I've never met in person. So they're kind of like online virtual mentors. But I follow them and I love what they're putting out into the world. And that's another thing I love about podcasts, because I'm constantly discovering new podcasts. And I'm almost to a point where there's so much stuff that I really want to listen to or watch or pay attention to that I have to weed through it so I can still get my work done.
So, you said weed through it, and I know Gardner is one of your names that just like stuck out there immediately, even though you used Jennifer Whitacre, the Gardner, and the way you said that. Why would you suggest to others that they do that, like focus on the information that's necessary for their inputs, if you would?
Oh, I believe it's healthy to focus on what we're taking in, especially on television and on the internet. I think it's really important to pay attention to what we're taking in, because it does affect our mindset, and it affects our thought processes and our thought patterns. And our thought patterns in turn affect how we feel about ourselves, and that affects our patterns of behavior. So it really does have this huge impact on our whole entire lives. So if all you're taking in is like crappy sitcom television, then your life is going to be some reflection of that. And I used to do that. I used to be the avid television watcher, and I had this whole list of shows that I would watch every week. And that was a point in my life where I felt like I wasn't growing. I felt like I was stuck and I was spinning my wheels, and I was just increasingly frustrated. And then I got to a point where I started shifting what my brain was consuming. And I started to reflect that in my life. And then I started to move forward again and started to grow again. And it's made a huge difference.
Thanks for sharing that. Again, amazing audience. You're hearing it live here from Jennifer Whitacre. Jennifer, let's switch gears for a moment. Let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Jennifer, what is your earliest childhood memory?
I have a memory. I don't remember how old I was. I'm thinking maybe 4. I'm not sure, but I do have a memory of playing outside with a cat that I had when I was a little kid.
Why do you think that memory is so clear?
Oh, and that's the thing. It's not so clear. It's a little bit sketchy. I love cats, and I always have. I've been a cat person my whole life. And don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-dog. I know there tends to get this dog and cat bickering. I love dogs just as much as I love cats. However, I prefer to live with cats because dogs, to me, are just a lot of work, especially when I travel. They're a lot more work.
Yeah, they don't allow you to travel that much without having someone who has to take care of them. Cats can stay on their own, can't they?
For short periods of time, yes. And I find it easier to find somebody who's willing to stop in and check on my cats if I'm traveling, rather than having a dog, because I have had dogs in my life too.
How do you see that memory connecting to who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I have 3 cats now, and they're all black.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep,
Jennifer,
I love black cats.
if we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Oh my goodness, when I was 12 years old. That's a good question. I'm trying to remember. Well, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think when I was 12 was the year Thriller came out, and oh my God, was I over the moon. I remember watching, we had Friday night videos on television when I was a little girl. And this was even before MTV came out. And I remember watching Thriller on Friday night videos for the first time, and I was just completely blown away. And I think I was 12. I really do.
Oh, there we go. All right, Jennifer. Yeah. Well, we've arrived.
And I think that was the same year Sister Christian came out. And
was that one of your favorites as well?
That was 1984. That was just a good year for music. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Like, I'm totally a 70s, 80s, 90s music kind of girl.
Love it, love it. All right, my friend. Well, we've arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form. So it's yes or no. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Not yet.
Are you married?
No, I'm not.
Do you have children?
I have one.
Do you believe in God?
Sort of.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Not an inner circle, no.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No, I do not.
How about 3 hours a week?
If Netflix counts, I think 3 hours a week, I would probably come close to getting there.
And what about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
If you're excluding actual work-related things, I do have a little bit of screen time. I probably waste about an hour a day reading articles that don't have anything to do with my work.
If you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Jennifer Whitacre, what would you say that is?
Know yourself. Oh my gosh, know yourself. I'm still, at age 46, learning and discovering things about myself that surprise me.
Jennifer, This was a great pleasure, my friend. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Know yourself. Get to know yourself, people.
All right, Jennifer, this was a great pleasure again, my friend. Thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you for having me, Angel. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great.
This segment has been brought to you by Amazel Enterprise.